Hello everybody and welcome back to the Carl Talks Football YouTube channel, where in this video we'll be going over my predictions for match week 4 of the Premier League. If you're new around here, please do consider hitting the subscribe button, and as always smash that like button on the way in, and let's get stuck into my predictions from week 4. Okay, so this week I had a reasonable week with predicting what way each game was going to go, but didn't get a single correct score, so let's go through each game. Luton versus West Ham, I predicted a 2-0 West Ham win, and it finished up being 2-1, though arguably Luton should have had a penalty in that game. But yeah, West Ham continue marching on up the table, which is a bit concerning, to be honest, as a Chelsea fan. Thought we'd be way above them, but hey-ho. Then we've got Sheffield United versus Everton. I thought it would be a 0-0 game, and it was a 2-2 draw. Goals I really did not expect to come in that game, particularly from Everton, but looks like they may have finally found a bit of attacking form, or maybe Sheffield United's defence just isn't that great. Then we've got Man City versus Fulham, which finished 5-1 instead of the 3-0 that I predicted. Although, to be honest, shouldn't have had a goal given Man City. There was, I think it was Ake, clearly stood in an offside position, flicked his leg out towards the ball when the shot came in. And yeah, how that goal was given and he wasn't obstructing the goalkeeper, I don't know, but ultimately didn't affect the outcome. Could it at the time if it hadn't have been given? Probably not. City, I think, were always going to win that game, but interesting to see the referees and VAR officials are still as shocking as ever. Then we've got Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest, and I went for a 2-0 Chelsea win, and boy was I disappointed. More on that game in my reaction video, which I'll put the link to in the description. But yeah, honestly, shocking performance. Just can't break down a low block, apparently. And yeah, ended up being 1-0 to Forest. Scored a goal on the counter-attack. Sanchez should have saved it, to be honest, but we can't ever have a goalkeeper that, occasionally saves a shot that maybe you wouldn't expect them to. Just that little bit of difference that bit of quality would make, but there we are. So yeah, we lost that game, very poor. Burnley versus Spurs, I thought Spurs would win that 1-0, turned into a 5-2 romp, and I think what I've been saying about Burnley this season is true. They're going to play good football, but they're not going to be hard to beat, they're not going to be hard to break down, and to be honest, Spurs just absolutely carved them open. Then we've got Brentford versus Bournemouth, and I went for a 1-0 Brentford win, thinking that it'd be quite a low scoring game. Brentford would probably have the edge being at home. Finished 2-2, so got that one completely wrong. Then we've got Brighton versus Newcastle, where I went for a 2-0 Newcastle win. That was very wrong. Brighton ended up winning 3-1, and Eddie Howe is clearly going to be under a lot of pressure now, I think. How long are the Saudi Arabian owners going to stick with him basically after such a poor start to the season? I think they'll give him a good bit of time, but I think if things don't pick up by Christmas, he could well be gone, to be honest. And it depends how they do in their Champions League group as well. I don't think they're going to have much joy in that group. If they win 2 games, I think they'll have done well. But their home crowd might be the difference in that one. But yeah, poor defeat for them. Brighton picking it back up after they got walloped a couple of weeks ago. Then we've got Palace versus Wolves, and I thought Palace would win this because there didn't seem to be any goals in the Wolves team. And they were 3-1 up at one point, but that finished 3-2. Wolves found some goals from Hwang, and I can't remember who scored the other. I think it was Cunha. But yeah, Palace ended up being, despite the scoreline, I think they were relatively comfortable in that game. They were all over Wolves from what I watched. Then we've got Liverpool versus Villa, and Villa were everyone's sort of big tip to do something this season, but they've been on the end of a couple of quite heavy defeats. First to Newcastle, then to Liverpool away. Maybe they're just going to be a team that are very strong at home, but then just do not travel well. And I think that could well be the case, as they lost, say, 3-0 to Liverpool. And then the final game, which I was a bit 50-50 about when I was predicting the result, we have Arsenal versus Man United. Now, finished 3-1 to Arsenal, but if you watch the game, it really wasn't a 3-1 game until the 90 something, till the 88th, I think it was, minute, when Garnacho scored a goal that was ruled out for offside. And then Declan Rice scored it, I think it was the 96th minute, and then they conceded a breakaway goal on the counter-attack. A 1-1, to be honest, was a fairly accurate result, in my opinion. I don't think Arsenal looked particularly threatening in that game, but then Man United didn't look particularly threatening in that game either. Arsenal could have had a penalty, and that was ruled out correctly by VAR, in my opinion, after Kai Havertz threw himself to the ground in the penalty area. And if Arsenal were that dominant, you wouldn't have had him in the box diving. So is what it is. But yeah, correctly overturned by VAR. If anything, I think Havertz should have been booked. That amount of contact when you initiate it in the box is never a penalty, in my opinion. Man United arguably could have had a penalty when their new striker Højlund was wrestled to the ground by Gabriel. So Could have gone either way, to be honest. I thought Man United had won it when Garnacho scored his offside goal, but apparently not. And then I say 2 very late goals at the end. You know, understandable conceding the 3rd goal. You're trying to get a late equaliser and you end up just leaving space open at the back. It is what it is. The game was much closer than the scoreline itself suggested. Anyway, that's it from me on that game week because I'm trying to forget it as fast as possible. Now we're on an international break, and of course, after Chelsea got absolutely battered. So, yeah, looking forward to being back. Looking forward to Premier League action returning in a couple of weeks after the international break. Content will be slowing down just a little bit during that period because, to be honest, I'm not really interested in World Cup qualifiers, as I'm sure. Or is it World Cup qualifiers? I think it's a World Cup qualifier and a friendly. So I'm just going to sit there and hope that, you know, Chelsea don't get any more injuries, which I'm sure we will. And yeah, I'll be back with some more content over the course of the week, and then we will build up to the next Premier League match week. Thank you very much for watching. I say, if you're new around here, please consider hitting the subscribe button, like the video as always, and if you've got any thoughts, leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in a future video. Take care.